With no sign of the Emperor's treasure, and not even a clue as to what it might be, Nariko's grand ambitions had come to nothing. Now, having given herself a career as a mercenary commander along the way, she needed to find a way to both honor her father and the vows she had made to her own troops. Even with the pirates suppressed, the menace of clan warfare remained a blight on the land, and her company, although highly skilled, was not going to tilt the balance of any war enough to bring it to an end. Only one course of action had any chance of revealing a way forwards. He's still the only hope for a lead. He said he didn't know anything about the treasure, but he might have been holding back. He barely knew me after all. Now he might tell me the whole truth. I don't know, he didn't seem like the kind of guy to send a poor girl out on a deadly quest if he didn't really think that was the best option. So he must have believed the pirates had the treasure. What else is he going to tell us if we go back? I don't know. Something, anything. At least he might have a good idea what to do with the warband of pirate hunters I've got going spare. Maybe. Will be good to see the old man again anyway. He was a good teacher. Everyone listen up. We're heading south to Master Ujie's school. Got a little business to take care of, and you boys need a little de-rusting while we're at it. Some of you remember Ujie, right? You speak of Ito Ujie? Maybe. Nariko? He doesn't use his family name. He's a sword school master in the Shimazu domain.
Got to be him. I remember Ujie very well.
You've trained under him?
No, we trained together. I gather he didn't tell you anything about his heritage.
He didn't. And why should he?
Because it's surprising. Let's get on and visit him then. When he sees you're with me, he'll tell you everything you need to know.
Perfect. We were just thinking of extorting a few secrets from him. Try to ignore her. Kojiro, wasn't it?
Indeed. Ito Kojiro.
Hello and welcome back to Nariko's Treasure, where after our victory against the pirates we're left without all that much to show for it, unfortunately. What we're going to do first and foremost though is head to Nagasaki, because there's a couple of things that will allow us to actually take advantage of our victory. First, we need to sell off some of the loot we've got, and you can see I'm actually quite low on money. And secondly, we're going to try and find Great Lord Raizoji, because of course we have a quest from him to defeat the pirates. So we can now cash in, both literally and on terms of respect from him. Unfortunately, only Lord Takeda of Kai is minding the castle. He is probably in a political asylum here, so he's not actually in charge. He is just hanging out until he gets his power back home. But we meet the Great Lord just outside the castle. He was moving around, and we are able to hand in this quest, giving us a large amount of experience, money, and improving our relations both with the clan and with the clan's leader personally. So that is all great news. We got something from our victory at the very least. And of course, we got Kojiro, as we learned earlier. We'll learn a bit more about him in a second. First, we're going to start with my plan to head back south towards Ujie's training school. I needed to stop at Kunamoto in order to sell off some stuff in my inventory, especially these spices, which get a very good price. You can see my money now has jumped up quite a bit from where it was just a second ago. So we've got a decent few weeks worth of money to operate on at the moment, so plenty for our stay over at the training school. And now to have a little look at the skills, particularly of Kojiro, our new member. He is a samurai, so most of his skills are based around combat. You can see he has health buffs and a high level of power strike, making him very good at using melee weapons. And I've equipped him with some basic armor. He's got a sword, and I've given him a gun as well, which he's terrible at using. He's also a trainer, which is quite good because his training will stack with Nariko's training to improve the quality of our troops. And I'm giving him some abilities in firearms there since I've given him a gun. So he's still absolutely terrible, so he's unlikely to do anything useful with it. And Nariko has also leveled up after doing that quest, so now we can unlock the next level in surgery and trainer for herself, which are both great boons to our party, and inventory management. Not as exciting, but comes in very useful all the time, having a bigger inventory. So as I continue on, I'm going to be checking all the villages, as I'm still searching for iron on the way down south. Unfortunately, it seems Sashiki is actually taken over by pirates when we arrive at it. I think I've actually saved this place from pirates before, because they already seem to really like me. So we're going to have to just do it again. We set up on a hill just outside the village, and the pirates come out to fight us, which was a bad move, because now they're bombarded by my archers and gunners and the peasants, pelting them with stones, and Nariko herself, of course, doing some sharpshooting from the back of her horse. Actually a pretty bad angle, so I am going to sneak around the edge here to try and get some better shots on the enemy. And the trees and rocks in front of our formation slow the enemy down so much that they're actually obliterated by our ranged fire. They just couldn't get to us. So finally I seem to charge forward and find the last survivors of their band. I thought they would be in the village, but actually encounter one outside here who comes right after me, ignoring the rest of my party. Just cut him down with my polearm. Then I rush towards the village thinking there must be more in there, but actually I can hear my men fighting someone up on top of the hill. It's over before I can arrive though, and luckily it went fine. They managed to take down the last of the pirates. So fantastic news there. Unfortunately though, one of the peasants involved did get killed somewhere in that chaos, but not much we can do about that now. So we're going to move on, taking the honor bonus from not taking any reward from it, since we don't really need a reward at this stage, and head south, and you can see I find another pirate base immediately. So it seems the pirates have decided to just move out of the Raizoji clan's territory now that the Raizoji clan are persecuting them. I've set up among the Shimazu, still plenty of good stuff to be had here, and we actually encounter a very large band of pirates guarding the bridge that we need to cross in order to head further south, so we're going to have to face them in a river crossing battle now. We charge forwards, the enemy charging forwards from a hill behind the bridge as well. I'm going to set up on this small raised area, but I need to put infantry closer to the bridge really in order to stop the enemy from swarming across and try and keep them in the choke point. So we're going to start off by just bombarding them at long range, and the problem here is that my men are very spread out, moving through the trees here, and a lot of them trying to fire at the same time means we can't really get into our formation very quickly, and the enemy are actually arriving before my melee line is set up. I really want the melee line to be even closer to the enemy, but this is as close as I can get without it just being completely spread out. So I'm going to have to do a bit of manual distraction to buy a little bit more time. So I ride around the enemy, drawing many of them to chase me, slashing fruitlessly with a sword that's too short to hit the enemy. Going to switch back to the polearm to deal with that. So now you can see my line getting more secure. The enemy still haven't made contact, and at this stage I decided to just rush against the enemy, giving me the best chance of getting my men to group together as we face individual foes. I'm going to ride across the bridge, slashing down the enemy's missile support with ease, and almost immediately we see a rout among the enemy's forces. The guys at the front start trying to push back, crossing the river, but too slow. I can simply catch up and bring them down. They had more support at the back on top of these hills, but very quickly they were dispatched by attacking them from horseback. So the battle was won. I wasn't quite sure what had even happened there, since it was so quick and chaotic, but as it turns out, we were lucky enough not to have lost anyone in that engagement, so I was actually quite surprised by that, and we even took a couple of the enemies prisoner, and of course going to get some good loot off that. So after stopping to sell the loot and prisoners off, we can now successfully reach the training field of Master Ujie.
Master Ujie! Well, I never. Our hero returns with an army at her back. You know, I've had quite a lot more business since people learned you trained here. You've made fighting rather fashionable among the womenfolk. Then I hope they don't find out that my mission was a failure. Now that can't be. Even the samurai lords in Kagoshima are talking about what you've achieved. We defeated the pirates, but we've already learned that others are moving to take their place like weeds. And moreover, the part of the mission we previously discussed didn't work out. And we were wondering, she is eventually getting to, I assure you, whether you actually had something else you wanted to tell us on that subject? I'm sorry, my ladies, I really am, but I can't think of anything I can provide you on the matter. If you won't tell us, perhaps you'll tell an old friend instead. Hey, come on up. Whatever do you mean? Oh, Kajiro, I don't believe it. And these folk don't believe they are done picking your brain on some secret scheme they keep whispering about. But you needn't be as skeptical as them. It's good to see you, brother. Rows of tents sprang up around the school as Nariko's forces settled in for their stay. By the next morning, the training field was alive with shouts and the clashing of arms as the veteran troops sparred with their juniors and the students alike. With the action keeping prying ears busy, Nariko took the chance to press Master Ujie for more clues. Well, if you saved Nariko Dono's father, then at least something came of your trip to Funai. As I recall, the Otomo wanted nothing to do with us. Not at all, and that was our last chance. The Shimazu took all we had and disbanded the Ito entirely. That was when Kojiro and I went our own ways. But you were nobility. Could you not have joined the Shimazu? I thought so. Kojiro absolutely did not. Turned out he was right though. I wasted years trying to get back onto my rung on the ladder with the Shimazu. Running this school is the height I gave up at. Still got higher than me though, brother. Raizoji didn't care much for my blood, didn't stand out much, ended up just another middling samurai waiting for a good time to die. Still looking, I guess. Well, I can't make any promises there. Don't even have a destination right now. That's why I wanted to speak with you again, Master Ujie. I had gathered as much, and have thought much on the matter. There is a destination I can offer you, on almost no promise at all that it will lead you any closer to the treasure. When I met your father in Funai, I had been confused as to why he had travelled with 2 carts if he was on his own, quite a difficult task. As you know, he was not even close to telling me what they carried, but he did tell me that at first there had been others with him, a collection of monks fleeing Kyoto as the threat of attack mounted. They were happy to help him move these carts west, so either he paid them well, or perhaps they knew what the cargo really was. I don't know how far they made it before leaving him, or why they left, or why they didn't take the other cart with them. But I remember a name, Tenkai. He was the chief of those monks, and if they had come from the Imperial Palace, then he must have sat beside the Emperor himself. If you can find that man, he might be able to help you. So we've got some guy who may or may not have known about the treasure, who didn't see where it was taken and then disappeared while on the run. That thing's as good as found. And at best he'll just say that my father had the treasure. Unless, in fact, he did not. Well, in that case, we're even more out of luck. Could be anywhere. Could be off in the lands of the Gaijin. It's an eventuality worth consideration. Especially if you consider that an operation to smuggle treasures away from the Imperial Palace would have benefited from the use of decoys. It is quite possible that those monks left your father to go and join the true bearer of the treasure once they were satisfied that any pursuers had their eyes on the fake. Not impossible. All I can add is that your father seemed to believe that whatever he carried was sacred. He may have been lied to, or lied to himself for the sake of the cause, we cannot say. So in summary, no one knows anything about anything. But this Tenkai might. He was closer to the Emperor. He might know the truth of it all. Finding him is our best hope. I agree. You should travel to Kyoto. It is likely that many there will still remember his name and be able to tell you more. I only fear that your soldiers will not want to make such a long trip without knowing the reason. I'll take care of that. Miyoshi's the clan over there, right? I think we'll soon be receiving a letter from them offering a mountain of Mon for our bandit cleaning services. Well, if they're anything like me, a free trip to the capital will be interesting enough. So it seems we need to head to Kyoto, roughly in the center of Japan, and the seat of power, theoretically at the very least, the location of the Imperial Palace from which the Emperor should be ruling. So it's a fairly long journey, and before we leave, I had a few things I wanted to do in Kyushu. It seems we may be leaving Kyushu for a while, so I need to sort out a couple of minor bits of business. First, I was going to check the villages once again to see if I could give any iron to our blacksmith. Unfortunately, Chikashino here is actually under control of bandits, so we're going to do what we do best here and try and give it back to the people by engaging in a quick skirmish. We form up outside of the town and the bandits come out to face us just as we would like. I rush forwards, cutting down a few of the enemy as I go, while the rest of my troops focus on shooting at the enemy before they can reach a melee with their deadly swords. And as usual, this works pretty well, and Nariko actually getting pretty good at using polearms from all the time she spent slashing men down from horseback with this Chinese weapon. So the battle very soon comes to an end. Mari leveled up as a result of the damage she did to the enemy.
One of the peasants we were fighting with was unfortunately killed, and one of our party was wounded, but the whole enemy were wiped out and the village restored to its people. Unfortunately, they did not have the iron that I needed, so we're going to move on once again. Now, my actual destination here is Nagasaki because I want to come and visit the dye works that I paid so much to set up, because this should provide me with a decent income while I'm away from the island and allow me to pay most of the fees for my party, meaning there's not going to be too much time pressure to be making more money. So it looks like we're going to make roughly 500 a week off this. It costs us a few hundred more than that to upkeep our party, but it's a big discount, means we can last a long time. Now, I also noticed there was a tournament going on when we arrived, so we might as well get involved since we've done well in tournaments before. The first round does not go well at all. Our teammate goes down immediately, and now it's 2-on-1. We cut down one of theirs and the second cuts down me, but I still go through to the next round because only 2 of the 4 get knocked out. So we were selected by the judges to continue. So now in the next round, we've got a 4 versus 4, chaotic, with all of the enemy ganging up on my teammates. I'm relatively free to just slash at them, and very soon the last of the enemy's team members is surrounded and cut down. So an okay round there. Let's move on, and every time going to be betting on myself. So if we do win, we're going to make big money, but if we lose, we're going to be losing that money as well. So a little bit risky here. In the next round, once again, my teammates taking the brunt of the enemy's attacks, allowing me to just walk behind the enemy and hit them freely. Not the best of tactics from our opponents here. Another 3-on-3 starts up, and exactly the same thing happening. We're going to go right behind them and just slash away. Our slashes at this point pretty powerful and pretty fast, because Nariko's getting really good at using melee weapons from all her experience, so we can attack very quickly, and this becomes in particular useful in these 1-on-1s where we can just smash the enemy in rapid succession, and 1 or 2 hits usually going to be enough to bring an opponent down. So as long as we can block any initial hits from longer range weapons, we should be okay. Here, this opponent slashing wildly at us, but a single blow to the head knocks him down. And as a result of that win, we take victory in the tournament, making around 3,000 mon as a result. So now we really are going to be financially secure for a long time. The pressure is completely off. We get some bonus experience, and we can come and say our goodbyes to Great Lord Raizoji, improving our relationship with him as his admiration of our skill grows ever higher. So now the business in Kyushu is sorted, it is time to move on. So first we move down near Funai, where we can ferry ourselves across to Shikoku Island as we've done before, but this time we're not going to be sticking to the west coast, we're going to go all the way across the island. But while I was making this journey, Nariko and Mari went to scout ahead of the main body of troops and encountered a strange sucking noise.
Wait, what's that sound? Oh my. What? I know exactly what that is. I'm gonna take a look. What is it? Hey, Mary, wait for me. Heavens. It's not what it looks like. I'm afraid it is. I better go. The sight of a woman must be putting you off.
Get off me, you fool! Kill her, both of you!
Nariko-chan, shoot them. Mary, what's going on? Everyone stop. Too late. These guys are fond of swordplay.
Smug harlots! Die!
Bit of a touchy subject, was it? Please, you don't need to... Too late. Whew. That escalated quickly. What even happened? I'll tell you when you're all grown up, okay?
So after that strange little encounter, we get a little bit of loot and can now continue on. Gonna head over to the east side of the island, looking at all the villages along the way and finding nothing. So we can quickly jump over to Owaji Island with another village for us to check, which again unfortunately does not have what we are looking for. Nowhere so far seems to have had any iron, and now it's just a short passage onto the Japanese mainland of Honshu. We're now in Miyoshi clan territory and are just a short distance from Kyoto itself. So we're gonna move up, checking all the villages and just have a look at the stuff around us. We can see rebel armies and a lot of forces belonging to the Miyoshi clan, some of them actually fighting with the rebels there. We also spot the Iko-Iki rebels, a more organized religious rebel faction operating in the area. Moving east towards Nara, we see lots of villages and caravans scattered all over the place and rebel bands just moving around on the road. I'm pretty sure this whole area is in complete chaos given the amount of rebel groups we can see all over the place, and it's very likely that those villages and caravans are just getting destroyed whenever they get away from the safety of the cities. So we reach Kyoto, but I noticed even from outside that Great Lord Miyoshi isn't inside, and I thought he's probably the best man to talk to in this situation to start getting us some leads on what we're going to need to do to track down this monk Tenkai. So while I wait for him to appear, I think he's actually probably over to the west with the warband, but anyway, we are going to have a go at sizing up some of these rebels, and they're actually pretty fast, so I ended up chasing them around the place. But finally the next day, I caught up to a group just northwest of Kyoto. We massively outnumber them, so it's going to be easy for us to engage them in combat. The battlefield not as hilly as the battlefields we tended to see over in Kyushu, which might make it a little bit easier to get long-range shots in, because we'll have line of sight, and Nariko is going to exploit that by coming in to do the usual sniping while the rest of her party attempts to do the same less successfully. So after 2 outrageous shots that somehow hit, getting us a nice firearms level up, the enemy forces start to come into bow range and then eventually come over the ridge to be in front of our melee line. But at this stage they've already taken losses and their morale is breaking, so they start actually calling off the attack. So our party needs to rush forwards. Now it turned out that actually a lot of their guys had stayed behind in bits and pieces, so as we advance forwards we face lots of guys whose morale hasn't broken, are just going to fight us one-on-one, and this pikeman is giving me a really hard time. He takes many blows from my weapon and I'm struggling to deflect all of his stabs against me. Happens eventually though, we discover 2 more enemies. The first goes down right away. A second comes up with a Tetsubo, a deadly blunt force weapon. Unfortunately for him, a storm of arrows cuts him down before he can attack me, and this actually continued for a while. There were like 10 more guys back here. Eventually we cut down all the single enemy troops and a victory was ours, and luckily for us we did not lose anything in the fight and got some decent loot off it as well. 4 really nice and valuable pieces of armor, so it seems the Kinai rebels are better equipped than the pirates we've been facing, so it might be quite profitable to actually go after them. Now when I went back to Kyoto, Great Lord Miyoshi was actually in the castle, the rumour has it, so we are going to come up and get an audience with him and try to extract some clues on where we might need to go next, and perhaps ask why his area is in so much chaos.
I've been waiting to meet you for some time. Oh really? I'm honoured, my lord. Honoured, you say? Tell me, my lady, have you really taken 1,000 heads? I'm not sure, my lord. Did someone tell you I'd done that? Someone? Spend more time in the town, my lady. The people call you Nariko of the 1,000 Widows. Ah, well, that is strange. It can't be that many. Don't be so anxious. I know who it was you've been killing. You have done Kyushu quite the service. And those widows simply picked the wrong husbands, of that we can be sure. Thank you, my lord. I am glad you have heard of me, because I have a favour to ask. A favour? I thought you were here to work for me. You proposed it be the other way round. Not as such, my lord. It's just I'm looking for a former member of the Imperial household. It's a sensitive matter.
Stop!
You are right. This is a very sensitive matter indeed, and it shall not be discussed in these halls. In fact, to discuss it at all will likely put me at risk, but I will allow you to convince me. You are famous for your actions against brigands, and Kanai has more of those than anywhere. The price we pay for our wealth, as the scholars would say. I trust you will relieve me of this trouble. Well, of course, my lord, I'd be happy, but I really do need to
Impress me,
Nariko of the 1,000 questions, and we will return to this topic another time. So Great Lord Miyoshi seems reluctant to give us any details, but it seems that maybe he does have something to tell us, and if only we can ply our trade a little in order to earn his favour, we might be able to get access to them. So we need to hunt down the base of operations of all the rebels in the area, and almost immediately upon my search I come across a large band of rebels, almost 50 of them, almost equaling our own party size, and engage them in battle in the field. So we're going to wipe out this large party so that we can continue our search in safety. The fact that so many rebels are around does suggest we are at least already quite close to where they're operating from. So the battle starts with the 2 sides very far apart from each other, so after a long wait they advance towards us. And I realised that even without much provocation from me, a large number of their party members are actually trying to attack me personally rather than the rest of my team. So I just moved out of the way and sat on the edge of the battle, and that made life a lot easier for our war party back on the hill. It was very easy for me to escape from the guys chasing me, since none of them seemed to have ranged weapons, so I could always just get out of the way before they engaged in melee. Eventually went back to our line to continue the fight, noticing that some of my allies were lying on the ground, so in the skirmish they'd had with the enemies who did attack them, they had actually taken losses, which was a shame. I'll have to look into that more later. But the second band which came with me is going to be very quickly defeated. I ordered my forces to charge to finish them off, as I saw many of them starting to rout. I was going to shoot that guy down, but Mary rushing in for a cheeky kill steal. We see some more enemies fleeing to the hills in the distance. We are going to do a bit of pursuit by fire and then chase with Mary on horseback to finish them off, and the battle comes to an end very shortly after that. So we've been victorious, but unfortunately for us, we actually lost 3 members of our front line in that combat. Didn't see how it happened, but that is a huge shame. These Kunai rebels are stronger and better equipped than the pirates we've been facing previously, which makes it more dangerous, but as you can see there, also means we get some high quality loot, loads of samurai gear, which is worth a lot, and it's just good equipment. So I realized I might as well start actually kitting out both Mari and Kujiro with some new stuff. Mari isn't well able to use melee weapons because she's actually not very strong, but I can give her this wakizashi, which is better than the old farming implement she had been using, and upgrade her armor. And for Kujiro as well, we've got lots of new armor pieces to give him. Samurai gear befitting of his status. Previously he was just wearing some heavy Ashigaru armor essentially, so that is good for him. So now we just need to continue our search. We're going to have a look around for the base, and on the way we have our weekly payout to the troops, and you can see the investments back in Kyushu mean we only pay out about half what we usually would have to, giving us twice as long before we need to find a new source of income. And we're going to be getting some loot from any rebels we come across on the way, so that should actually keep us in the green the whole time. Not long later, I spotted another band of rebels. I decided to attack this one specifically because it had a large number of prisoners with it. They are taking people, holding them ransom for whatever reason. So we can come in and actually free those people by specifically targeting this party. The battle, nothing special. We have them outnumbered more than 2 to 1. So we can just kill many of them at range, and then when they're close to melee, cut them down. One cheeky archer there coming in really close and actually shooting my horse, and it loses more than half its health. Very annoying. But the battle is pretty soon over, took no losses, and everyone we rescued actually volunteered to join our party. In particular, we're going to take on those peasant women. I realise we've actually got quite a lot of women in our party at this stage, all people who we've just rescued from various bandits or pirates, and we'll look into that a little bit more next time. Having exhausted her leads in Kyushu, Nariko began a new search for the treasure with even more tenuous clues. To those who followed her, the decision to take their expeditions far from their homes wasn't entirely appreciated. However, the steadiness of the pay was alluring enough to make it worthwhile. Many of them knew that without Nariko, they could have ended up just like the sorts of marauders they were targeting. The work they did wasn't too different either way, but with Nariko they knew they had the people on their side. And so, they continued to follow her on a crusade around Kinai, further from knowing their leader's true intentions than they had ever been. Thanks for watching. Nariko will go above and beyond to try and win Great Lord Mayoshi's favour in the next episode of Nariko's Treasure.